The Sunrise Movement is celebrating the victories of Senator Bernie Sanders in Iowa and in New Hampshire.
Sunrise Movement's digital media manager, Araceli Jimenez, joins us now via Skype to discuss their support for Sanders and how they're helping him organize throughout the primary process. Welcome. We're so glad to have you, Araceli.
Yeah, thanks. It's good to be here.
Absolutely.
All right, so talk to us about the work that you did on the ground in these two first states.
Absolutely. We're really proud to have run a really fantastic youth organizing program, both in Iowa and in New Hampshire. In Iowa, we had a wonderful team of full-time organizers organizing at college campuses across the state, building out local hubs. And in New Hampshire, we were really fortunate enough to partner with New Hampshire Youth Movement to sort of do the same thing and make sure that we were really turning out young people at college campuses to vote and to vote for a Green New Deal champion like Bernie Sanders.
So, Araceli, tell us a little bit about the college movement, the Sunrise Movement generally, and how you're turning out in future states. Like in Nevada, there's, of course, the University of Las Vegas, and Reno, South Carolina also has a large student population. What are you doing mechanically on the ground in order to organize for the campaign?
Of course, yeah. So Sunrise is a movement of young people to stop climate change and create millions of good jobs in the process. And so looking at Iowa and New Hampshire and other states, other key states as well, we knew that we would be able to turn out the most youth voters if we looked at where the most young people are, which was college campuses. And so looking at our wins in Iowa and New Hampshire, it's really clear that on the presidential level, we were able to really make a big difference in that organizing. Just in New Hampshire, we broke the primary turnout record by over 6,000 votes, and 50% of those record-breaking votes came from the actual campuses that we were organizing on. And so, looking ahead to the future of 2020, we're actually going to pivot to really key congressional races. So we know that a Green New Deal and other sweeping changes that this country craves is not going to be won by just taking back the White House. We know that Bernie Sanders and whoever is the nominee, whoever is the president in 2021 is going to need a ton of backup in Congress and in the Senate, which is why we're really excited to share about our Super Tuesday strategy as well.
Yeah.
What are some of the barriers to college students voting? Ryan Grimm's a great friend of the show here, and he did some terrific reporting about some of the efforts that you and your partner organizations undertook in New Hampshire in particular, which truly may have made up the entire margin that Bernie Sanders won by. So kudos to you all for your work there. But I also know that they had passed a strict law there that made it a lot harder for college students to be able to vote in the state. Did that impact your efforts there, and are there similar barriers in other places?
Yeah, so in New Hampshire, after in 2016, when young people really swung the state, the Republican legislature, the state legislature, passed those laws that you just mentioned, Crystal. But the thing about those laws were that they were really hard to enforce, and so at the same time that those laws were passed, New Hampshire still had same-day voter registration. And so we were really capitalizing on educating young voters, first-time voters in the state of New Hampshire to making sure that they knew that they could show up on primary day and register to vote and have their vote cast and know that it would be counted. And so it was really a lot of voter education and things like that I think really made the difference in a state like New Hampshire.
Araceli, one of the more interesting things is that, despite your support for Bernie, is that many of the other candidates in the race claim the mantle of being leaders on climate change. How have you been able to combat that, if you ever see that in organization? How do you make the case for Sanders over others?
Yeah, of course. So as at Sunrise Movement, we know that we're facing unprecedented crises, not just the climate crisis, but of course also skyrocketing income inequality and deepening structural racism. And we know that these crises are all deeply, deeply connected. And so, as our political team was going through our endorsement process and making presidential scorecards, looking at policies of the entire 2020 Democratic field, we saw that time and again, Bernie Sanders was really the only candidate in the race that was seriously proposing solutions that met the scale of these crises.
Araceli, thank you so much. So great to have you. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
And we'll have more Rising for you after this.